Are you connected?
And we're off. Boom.
Yes, I will double down that I think the whole team thing is toxic positivity.
Wow. I love it. Toxic positivity. Can you extrapolate on that a little bit for me? I'm not sure I'm following.
Yeah, I mean, the toxic positivity is where like you don't acknowledge problems with it, like you're positive to like a problem or to a fault or something about a specific thing. That's how I feel about the team. You never hear anybody talk about anything bad about the team, right? It's all positive about the team.
Oh. Yeah, we don't have that problem.
You may not have like individuals being rude to other individuals, but
yeah.
I need to start writing topics down because I had another idea earlier and then I didn't write it down, so now I've forgotten it.
Has your clan settled into the new routine with the start of the school year?
Kind of, except our youngest on Friday had a sore throat, so she stayed home. And then on Monday, our middle one had a sore throat, so she stayed home. And then those two stayed home yesterday because one didn't want to go and the other one still had a sore throat. And then the younger one went today, and the middle one, throat still like not getting better, unlike the younger one is getting better. Goes to the doctor, COVID.
Oh.
So now it's like we've all been hanging out with her, so now it's like, oh, you get to spend time in your room by yourself, and we got to make arrangements because they share a room, we got to make arrangements for the other people, and it's like, so now they're home for the rest of the week, and then next week when they go, they have to wear a mask the whole week at school is kind of the school protocol. But the other kids, I think we talked about this, I for sure have complained to everybody I can about the fact that our district, even though we have like an active COVID case, all the other kids are allowed to go to school and not wear a mask.
Right.
like that's their like guidelines. Like, you can still come to school, no mask. I mean, it's like last year when the high school was like, oh yeah, well, if they have COVID and they've been vaccinated, they can come to school. Like, what? And last year it was so weird because last year it's like if they were in, someone who had COVID had to stay home from school for 10 days, not 10 school days, but like 10 calendar days. But if their siblings that lived in the same house, they had to stay home for 14 days.
Wow.
It's just crazy. I don't know. I wish, like, and today I'm like, because I think we can test for flu and we can test for some things, but it's like we probably should have been testing for like all kinds of, like, we should have some way to like run a panel and find out like what illness you have instead of having these specific, like, ones that you. So I don't know if it's different because it's a viral and not bacterial, but it's like, to me, I'm like, we probably should know all the common colds, and we can kind of tell when someone has one and when we see a new one, because COVID may now just be, I mean, it's symptoms similar to strep and to the common cold. So now it's like, it is what it is. And now we have, apparently seasonal mutations that are like very much like the flu. So.
All right. So in conclusion, you are off to a rousing start of the new school year.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Excellent. Do you feel that participation or people's desire to to participate in, and I'm gonna say that this is specifically, could be work things, but it could also be just social things in general. Do you think that has diminished since COVID? And we are we in this, I'm in my routine of not leaving my house?
I think some people, but to me, it seems very clear that the majority of people have pretended like we're going to go back to the way that things were at one. I think, like, for me, the place we were at, like, I finally had to realize, like, how we've talked a little bit about this, how devastating it was for things to end the way that they did. And it took a lot of time to kind of get over that and, like, understand that, like, it's never coming back. Like, that will probably never happen again. Like, what we had at that place, lightning in a bottle, like, it's its own separate lightning in a bottle that was very different than, like, other, like, really good places that I've been, or other good teams that I've been a part of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there are lots of people that are like, yeah, it's gonna be, we're just gonna go right back, and it's gonna be the way that it was. And I think there are some of us, I feel like we're the minority of people who are like, yeah, I'm not going back to the way that it was.
I don't know that I consciously think about it and go, I'm not going back to that. I think I am in a pattern of, hey, I'm pulling back and just doing me, and I'm not going to push myself. But I wonder also how much of that is, since I've had COVID, how much of that is, I don't feel like doing that. I don't have the energy to do that right now, and I don't know when I'll get that back.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people, I mean, because that was what they said the Great Resignation was, and it's, I mean, quiet quitting, Great Resignation, whatever, it's people realizing that they were being exploited by their employers, and they just wanted to put a stop to it. And so they're doing, whether they're, setting up boundaries, which is the essence of quiet quitting, because it's not like you're quitting your job and, like, doing the bare minimum.
Yeah, terrible term.
Yeah,
I don't know who the person was that threw that term out there, but they need to think about that a little bit further.
It seems like it was on purpose to try and delegitimize it.
Yeah.
Illegitimize? I don't know what the word would be. I'm making up words now.
Yeah.
But I think that's
okay. You're unflappable when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, especially the place that we live, like, like, our culture geographically is to, like, work hard and do a really good job and stuff, to the detriment, I think, of us a lot of times. I was thinking recently about, because I'm trying to figure out, like, what are the variables that made that, like, time so good, and how can I get back to kind of that feeling? Like, what are the different things that were going on? And the amount of time that we spent together was outrageous, actually. Because we would work together all day, and it felt like once a week we were doing some kind of happy hour, some kind of get together outside, plus constantly going to lunch and going on walks and stuff, like, throughout the day. So I'm like, well, that's not something I want to do anymore. Like, I don't want to spend that much time with people and do things. I've always had a really hard time with doing stuff after work, and I've always hated commuting. So for me, that was a very easy jump.
Right? The whole commuting thing, right? So that's one thing that, I clearly do not miss. That time in the car, to the point where now, when I do have to go somewhere, even if it's at rush hour, it's like, why is there so much traffic? Like, why? And, like, if it costs me, like, an extra 5 minutes in the car, like, just for one little brief thing where I'm on the freeway and I'm like, man, this is crazy. I'm, like, really upset that I had to do that, even though I wasn't in the car that long. I wasn't doing a huge commute. But my tolerance level has dropped. And I'm wondering if that's really where we're at, is people's tolerance, as you alluded to, is like, I'm not doing this anymore.
I think that's what it is, especially, Zennials or millennials, people just working really hard and there's no ROI in it. And them just being like, I've had enough. Like, I don't need to do this anymore, very clearly. Now it's like you can go work essentially anywhere in the world. So, now companies have to compete with other places taking their top talent. But now top talent can go anywhere they want. They're not limited to a geographical area. So,
and in my experience, when I was dealing with, managing a group of people where I kind of knew what everybody made, where you have that visibility to that data. When I saw like, oh, these are my top performers and these are not, and the salary was not necessarily an indicator of that.
It never is. It's usually the opposite, actually.
And that was really sort of like, wait a minute, and so what that becomes is, what's the incentive for people to really go above and beyond and do a great job? And what's the difference at the end of the year when it comes to the salary review of what person A versus person B gets?
Yeah, I don't think there is an incentive. And I think that's like the thing that we're realizing from the last 20 years is like this. I've heard people say that the state that we put corporate America in has never been sustainable. And it's like, well, yeah, because we're burnt out. We just didn't expect a pandemic and burnout, or the realization of burnout, to hit at the same time, coupled with a new generation entering the workforce, having the previous, so Gen Z entering the workforce with millennials being like, don't fall for this shit. Like, keep your wits about you. And then all of a sudden these two generations being like, yeah, we've had enough of this. You guys can get out of here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious to see if it's, well, the pendulum has just swung over here, and give it another 5 to 10 years and it's going to maybe move back to some kind of middle ground. I don't know, but it's going to be very interesting to see where things go in the next 10 years.
Yeah, even people that are like 5 years younger than me, they didn't live through 2008 like the same way, like that recession, the same way that a lot of us did. And I think that's, because that's not the first recession I've been a part of. Like, I was a kid when, there was one I thought there was one in 88, but then I've heard there was a big one in 80, which I wasn't around for, but I remember 88, I think. I just, like, everything was just depressed. There was a drought out here. Like, it was just bad times for a couple of years all around. So, like, I remember that. And then, 2008, it was like, there was no jobs. They were 700,000 jobs a day were getting axed for years, almost, it felt like. Months for sure, but I felt like years. It was like 7. That's like all the jobs. I remember one day I was watching a news report and they're like, this many jobs got cut today. That's as many jobs exist in the entire state of Maine.
Wow.
So now we have this weird thing where it's like we have all these indicators, like all these same indicators pre-2008, but it's not the same. There's like jobs and money everywhere, where it was the opposite in 2008. So I don't know if that means that we have like a giant crash that's going to happen to reset that. It seems like a reset has to happen to stop it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the craziness with like real estate and automobile prices, it's like, wow. It's and auto prices are driving down lately, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. Hey, on a current events topic, I have to get a different opinion of someone not in my generation. Okay? Because this has come up at work where people talked about it recently. And it's a big topic, I know, for a lot of people. And to me, when I heard the news, I was just like, oh, okay. But Did it impact you at all when the Queen of England passed?
No, do not
Okay.
care. Like, no.
Okay, because there are apparently a number of people who were like, and I get it. This is, it's always a sad moment when someone passes. Generally more for someone I know, like for me. But this was like a big thing for some people at work where they were talking about it, and like one or two people were clearly just like devastated by this whole thing. But I thought it was interesting because, and I know that, England looks at the Queen and the royal family or whatever as sort of their celebrities, kind of how we overly worship movie stars and rock stars, etc., athletes. So maybe it's all wrapped into one and it affects other people, but I was curious what your take is. What's your hot take on the passing of the Queen at age, what was she, 92?
Yeah. Well, I thought she was 96 or something. She was,
Or maybe
up there.
96.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like, from like my perspective and an American perspective, we don't recognize the authority of the Queen, so I don't care. Like, she's not a celebrity here. For sure, it's cool that we've had like one person that has been through all this stuff and all that, but I remember where I was when Princess Diana died. I remember watching that. I wasn't just upset about it or anything like that, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's weird that there are Americans that are like super into the royal family thing. But there are people that are like into the Kardashians, like, and I don't care about that. You know what I mean?
Fair. Yep. Everybody's into what they're into.
Yeah. So
That's interesting. You brought up Princess Diana. I think that affected me more than this, and I'm not sure why. I'm trying to process that. Maybe it was the unexpected.
The way with the paparazzi,
Right.
the violence of the way that it went down and all that stuff. Like, yeah. So, but no, cool. I'm not a fan of King Charles now either. He looks like a D-bag. Never particularly cared for him. But again, I don't know. I gave no thought until the Queen died about him either. Like,
Right.
it was like, oh, he's next. That sucks.
But sucks for what? Like, just as like
Right.
this figure? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think England needs it. They can keep it if they want to because it's tradition or whatever. But it's like it's not like the King or the Queen's making all the rules. Parliament's doing that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I haven't had anybody talk about it, which is funny because we have one person in England on our team. They're from America though, and then we have another one that just moved from here to Belgium. So, but nobody said anything about it.
Well, this was, a couple people talking about it, like in the preamble before like a meeting on Zoom, and then a couple people, at least one, I shouldn't say a couple, at least one having it like as a screen background showing the Queen, and I was just sort of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not. And I don't want to sound indifferent, but it's probably no different than if like, oh, this actor just passed away. I'm like, oh, well, I know who that person was, but I've got other things to worry about.
Yeah, you never know, right? So like,
am I sounding crass? Am I sounding
No.
like uncaring, cold?
no, because I'm sure that there are celebrities that have passed away that maybe it affected you more than you thought, right? So like,
Yeah.
I don't know that I was upset when Michael Jackson passed away. Obviously, it was shocking, but I watched the funeral because it was like the first one to be like broadcast over the internet back in the day. So I was at like work, like, yeah, 3 hours of Michael Jackson funeral. Chris Cornell that one was actually really sad for me when he passed away. I was surprised at like how upset I was about it. It only lasted for like a day, or even
Sure.
half a day. I don't know. But no, it's kind of like that. Oh, that's too bad. All right, moving on.
Yeah. I think I was affected more when my dog passed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, because you're like, right, no ties to England whatsoever. Like, doesn't affect us really in the slightest. Maybe geopolitically, but more than likely not. Like, not really.
Right. It's not like it's the prime minister.
Right.
And forgive me for my ignorance, but like, did the Queen ever speak out on anything, like as a figure of moral justice or social justice or whatever? I don't recall the Queen ever really speaking out on anything.
No, I've seen a lot of things about people saying that she was racist.
Oh.
Which is very likely given her age, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know.
Huh.
Yeah, I can't remember any of the other things. I gotta start writing them down. Things I'm gonna ask that I think are funny too, but...
It is the end of the state fair season, and thank goodness for that.
Why is that?
I guess I just sort of got tired of the have you been to the fair? How many times? Oh, some people went multiple times. Oh, I went with this person, this one. Great. But it's interesting that it becomes this galvanizing moment, but other things are not. Like, it's not as universally, the state fair is more universally heralded, discussed than many other things, which I think is very interesting. And maybe it's just, well, it's this benign thing. It's the Great State Get Together, Ethan. I don't know if you knew that. And maybe that's really what it is it's people getting together about something that's common, although kind of sad that there was a shooting there, but yeah,
I mean, it's always been that. I mean, I've grown up here quite a bit.
Right.
For a long time.
But there's no other events in the year. I don't even think Christmas is as much of a topic for people as the state fair is.
No. Well, because I mean, Christmas isn't everybody like, so that's the
right.
The thing is, like, everyone can participate in the state fair. That's why I've always liked Halloween as my favorite holidays, because like everybody can participate. Like, most everybody participates in it. Sure, you get some people, like ultra religious people, that are like, no, it's the devil. Okay, I mean, like, cool, if you don't want to, that's fine, but you don't have to go around telling that to everybody.
Right.
Maybe the costumes you grew up with, I've seen those horrifying pictures in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
And we have a Christmas ornament that's like one of those like psycho clowns. I was like 2 and my parents got it, and like, so I kept it, but you look at it, you're like, this is awful.
Do you still put that up every year?
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, because that's what our thing was. Like, we had our own, I don't know what it was like for you, but it's like they didn't like make like packages of ornaments and matching ornaments and things. I didn't think, at least not the way I grew up. And so we had you know, we would make ornaments as kids in school, or we would have stuff, and so like we had our own. So like when I moved out, I took like all mine that I made or that were mine when I was a kid, and we have those. But lately I'm kind of like, I don't really want to put that stuff up anymore. Like I think I'm done with that, like even to the point where I'm like, I want to throw it away. But so I don't know what we're gonna do. I can't really remember what we did last year. Our tree usually goes up really late and then comes down pretty quick. Like it's just because we don't have a ton of extra space, especially with during the pandemic with all the extra equipment that we had to get for like exercise and office and stuff. So we'll see. Maybe we'll do it different this year. How did you guys do that? Did you have all your own, like, did you have matching ornaments growing up?
No, we had the things that everybody, you know, made, you know, in school or whatever, or projects we did at home to make ornaments. And there's a certain amount of sentimental value for a number of those. You know, there were definitely my favorite ornaments that we had. I do recall we had this, to call it a pipe cleaner Santa wouldn't be doing it justice, because it was very long, furry, wire bendy limbs, but it was basically a pipe cleaner Santa with a little, you know, like the foam ball head with the glitter eyes and nose. And he had a hat, and he was just kind of this goofy little ornament we had. Well, at one point, and I'm guessing I was in, you know, my teenage years, where I would remove the star off the top of the tree and put the wire Santa up there in the form of a star, right? So his limbs were out, cap up, and he was in the form of a star. And my mother, while amused with this initially, was sort of like, okay, what'd you do with the star? Where is it? No, we cannot have the wire Santa at the top of the tree. And so, okay, fine, the star went back up and the Santa went somewhere else on the tree. Well, then the next year I did the same thing. And after several years of this, finally, when we busted out the ornaments to decorate the tree, I couldn't find the wire Santa. And I'm like, where is he? And it turns out my mother had snatched him up before I could get to him, put it in a box, wrapped it, and put it under the tree, so I could not put the Santa on the tree until Christmas Day, when I happened to open the box and went, oh, the Santa. So that has a lot of sentimental value for me, the wire Santa.
That's funny. What a passive aggressive Midwest story.
Right?
Just like...
Yes. But it was amusing to me that she would actually take the time to go and find it ahead of time to prevent me from getting it. But then still allowing me to have my fun,
right,
by giving it to me on Christmas. It all worked out great. We all won that year. So shout out to my mom. Clever strategy. I liked it. So
still
maybe the way things go, maybe this episode will drop somewhere around the holidays.
Yeah. I'm trying to decide what to do. I can't. I mean, part of me wants to take a break, but part of me also wants to just keep going too. So I don't know.
You know what happens if you take a long break? It's tough to get back in the saddle.
Maybe. I mean, the way that this is architected is that it's supposed to be easy, though. So.
True. And we have, a couple more weeks to go without Jess?
Yeah, which next week we have 2 on Wednesday and Thursday.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Is the Double D coming back?
Double D and a new person on Thursday. And then the week after we have another new person.
What?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that was because I thought we were going to go back to the Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I'd set it up and then got somebody lined up. They just happened to be that late, which I have to email both those two people just to, make sure. Double D has a habit of forgetting.
He's got a lot going on.
Yeah. So I'd switched it, and then we were like, no, we want to keep it on Wednesdays when it came time to do the switch. And I'm like, oh well. No big deal.
Okay.
So you're doubling down on teams are the best?
Yes. And actually, that was even more validating today. We've had a number of issues at the place where I'm working where we have had some production issues. So we've been trying to solve these. And every day this week, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's been a hornet's nest of chats. There's this problem was reported. We think it's a severity 1. No, now it's a severity 2. Well, we can't validate that this is actually happening. We need to share. And it's just this chat that's just a stream of consciousness, okay? And it's like, man, this is too much for me to handle. Like, why don't you do some research and then broadcast out the stuff? But when our team addresses it, like, it's all about the people and how you react to it. Because there are some people who are like, oh, this is a problem, but hey, you know what? We'll get it figured out, no problem. And I'm going to figure out whether it's urgent or not. And some people are really great about how they deal with it. And I'm like, and I leave the discussion feeling like, okay, we can handle this no matter what. And then there are other people that may or may not be part of my team or whatever, and they're absolutely just like, for lack of a better term, like ruthless about dealing with trying to tell people what the problem is and to get it resolved. And rather than being like, hey, this is kind of important, how can I help you fix this? It's, well, you need to get it fixed. And so it's very different styles. And one is the battery charging you up, and one is the vampire sucking the life out of you. So yes, a good team and good teammates. Now, you all have to be skilled. You all have to know what you're doing. But good teammates are better than bad teammates. So yes, I am doubling down.
I think so. Yeah, because what I was arguing about was it's sort of like the term leadership to me, right? So it's like the term leadership is so overused now in everything that it's lost its meaning. And I feel the same way about when we talk about teams. I feel like saying the word team, which is why I sent you that thing from the IT crowd.
Oh yeah. And I totally get that, like that the terms can be overused, so maybe we need to pivot away from those.
That episode just came out, by the way.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, so it's like, I mean, I see people, I think what really bothers me the most about those two things specifically is that a majority of people, they talk about that, but they don't actually know anything about it. Like, they don't actually know what it means. They think they do. And I don't know if they think they do because they have some kind of pragmatic training or something. So they're like, I totally get it, but they don't understand how to abstract it out to do anything with it other than what they've been shown.
They think there's a formula to it.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good way to say it. If I do this, then this happens. And that's just not how these things work.
No, it is not at all. It's organic.
Yeah.
You can't train. There's things people can do to make it better or easier, but it doesn't happen because you do certain things.
Right. Like, yes. It's very funny to me because a lot of the stuff that they're training on now, like, it's stuff that's been around forever. I think Jess and I actually talked about this in one of the episodes, like when it was just her and I. It's like, none of this stuff is new when it comes to teams and leadership or motivation. This is all like research and theories that came out in the 60s and the 50s. It's nothing new. It's all the same. And so it's very funny to me. You know, like, yeah, it amuses me. And I don't know. So maybe that might be part of it too, is like, you know, I guess maybe you get to a point where you have enough experience where you don't have to, like, you know better than to just follow the playbook. Like, you know how to get the same results or get a better result without wasting time doing things in the playbook. But you know that because of the experience and the success that you've had. So I don't know. That's kind of what I was going on about, and that's what I said. I'm pretty sure I said last week, like, I don't know that I'm explaining it right, because it was like kind of a new thought. Because don't get me wrong, like, who doesn't like working with a good group of people? Everybody likes working with a good group of people, or being part of a good group of people, which would be a team. I just feel like in our space, it's overused to a fault. Like, you just put everything about the team, you put it on a pedestal. Like, you don't have to say that stuff out loud.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I just like that IT crowd. Like, it just makes me laugh. I've loved that episode ever since it came out, because it's just like team. I love saying the word team.
But there are some people who absolutely don't even care about there being a team. It's all about them.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so, to me, that's where those teams will never be high functioning.
Well, yeah, they're not teams.
Right.
They're maybe part of a team and then an asshole. Or two, or three.
Mm-hmm. And they absolutely have no self-awareness about why what they're doing or not doing is impeding the function of the team. I
just talked to somebody about a scenario, and I'll tell you after, because you know these people, and they're like, this person got really mad. So what was going on is they were having a discussion, and one person was trying to get their thought out, and somebody else interrupted them. So then facilitator person was like, hey, interrupter, like, you chill out for 5 seconds and let this person finish their thought. Interrupter got super angry, to the point where they had to go tell other people about it. Angry.
What?
And then there was like a separate meeting where this person, the interrupter, vented their frustration to the rest of the team, and my response to this person was like, I'm like, so they're upset that they got shamed, essentially, that they got corrected on their behavior because they were the ass in the scenario, because they have no self-awareness. So like, they don't even know that they were the ass.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be even better when I tell you who.
Oh boy. Okay.
And you will not be surprised, I don't think. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Okay.
I'm so super excited.
Okay.